Okay, good evening. And today or tonight we have Fran with us. Now, Fran, after my interview with Mackenzie last week, who we established during the interview that she's still at high school, that as inspirational and amazing as she is, she's only 17 and out to, in the process of doing year 12. But her mum gave me some gentle prodding, and I think she sort of mentioned your name during the broadcast a couple of times as well. Now, what have you been doing that has inspired so much involvement or enthusiasm for Anzacs at the school where you teach?
Good evening, Tia. Yes, I'm a teacher at St Patrick's College in Campbelltown, which is about an hour from Sydney. I'm sort of on the outskirts of the Sydney area, hitting the rural
it's about outskirts. 10 minutes from where I live.
Yeah. We've been, I suppose we started to get interested and got some ideas for what we were doing with the centenary of Gallipoli, and we thought, that's happening, this is back in 2014. We thought, next year's going to be a big year, so what can we do? We need to mark this. And I suppose from there on, we started doing special assemblies at school, and then that fed into projects with, there was a lot of government projects encouraging schools to do research and special ceremonies. And so that's sort of what started off. And then the students have been engaged greatly, and they've got very enthused by it over the last few years.
And actually really enjoying history, which is always a bonus.
Yes, it's subject.
It is. It was one of the ones I chose at high school, and so I can imagine that it is still now with an extra, I won't even tell you how many years, with an extra few years of information to throw in there, that getting the kids engaged and finding a subject that they really can embrace and relate to is half the battle, isn't it? So you've won that. I do have some photos that I'm going to put up, but this first one, just that is amazing. I'm quite sure, I didn't even know that there was such thing as this. Now, don't forget to move when the picture jumps up. This is the Journal of History for history teachers, and you got a 6-page article into the journal that went. How far did this journal go?
Yes, that's the History Teachers Association Journal. That was an article about what we did in 2015 for the Gallipoli centenary. What we worked at school was a whole school approach. It was from every faculty of the college. We wanted to look at the whole Gallipoli campaign from a mathematical point of view, from a PDHPE point of view, from English, from every faculty, and sort of integrate it into the curriculum. So it was a whole school approach. So every student in the school engaged with that in some way. They either made a craft activity or they did something. Maybe in mathematics, they looked at the statistics of the carnage at Gallipoli or the World War I in total. So and we looked at not just the traditional way of looking at Gallipoli, but we focused on, we looked at the gendered perspective. So in other words, we're an all-girls school, so we have to think about those issues as well. So we looked at the role of women. We looked at the diverse nature of our Anzacs, because there were Anzacs from lots of different cultural groups. There were Russian Australians, there were Italian Australians, there were lots of, I mean, for example, Colonel Fiaschi, one of the most famous doctors in the Australian Imperial Force, who was actually born in Italy, for example. So we looked at also the Indigenous perspective, to look at the role of our First Nations people in the First World War, and their contribution, and what happened when they came back and how things changed. They didn't come back in the sense of back to equal rights. They ended up having to go back to not having full pay, et cetera, et cetera. So we looked at it in a very different light, trying to connect, because we as adults can connect probably better with this, because it's still within our family sort of history, et cetera. But for a young kid of 12, 13, if you don't provide them some point of connection, then it means the same to us as somebody in the Battle of Trafalgar or Waterloo, that far back. There's no connection. So you've got to build the connections with kids, whether it be, it's a nurse, I'm a girl, I can understand maybe that connection, or maybe I come from, a different background that's not traditional Anglo-Saxon, and I can connect. So it's all about building those connections.
Wow. I know Mackenzie was part of the nurses, the thing that you did at school with the nurses, and I've actually got the photos now, so it may be missing those last couple I tried to add in.
Yeah.
But we've got a bit of a slideshow that has a lot of Fran's work on it, that she's been behind all of this. So I'm guessing this was the march in Campbelltown.
That's actually the Fisher's Ghost Parade. That's actually that comes from the Fisher's Ghost Parade, which the theme of last year's Fisher's Ghost Parade was our local heroes. And so we took the work that we'd done all year to the Fisher's Ghost Parade, where we had our students dressed in various outfits from the different conflicts. So that's what you saw there.
So the Fisher's Ghost Parade in Campbelltown in the Macarthur region is a big festival that they do every November, just for those, because, I know in Campbelltown Fisher's Ghost is, but, Justin's from Ballarat, so he may never have heard of Fisher's Ghost. So it's a whole thing, and that they get the whole community involved in many different things and do the street parade. Oh, my photos went. Where did... Oh, no. Oh, yeah, wait, here we are. Let's see if we can get them back. Okay, so this one was from the Fisher's Ghost Parade, but it was a culmination of all the research and preparation that you guys had done prior to that. So do you want to run us through a few of the things that you had done at the school, like with the war nurses and the history club?
Okay, so the history club is a group of kids that are interested in history, and they meet once a week in their lunchtime, and usually each year we focus on a project. So last year we looked at the role of war nurses. That was a theme of the ANZAC Day School Awards, so we looked at focused on that. Previous year to that, we looked at the centenary of the armistice, for example. So we pick something and the kids work at it all year, making the less we forget that you just saw there, that sign, that was all handmade poppies that they'd actually made for the armistice centenary. So we recycled them for that, because we wanted to, they'd put so much work into it, so we'd reuse them. The nurses, we focused on our local nurses, our World War I nurses from Campbelltown. We looked at the girls, researched them, and just generally found out a lot of information about, what was the role of a nurse, how old did you have to be to become one, what types of places did you go to, all that kind of thing. So we focused on that. Again, being a girls' school, it's something that we found the girls found quite interesting, but it's also something that doesn't always get the recognition that it deserves, because over 100 nurses in all the conflicts Australia's been involved with have made the ultimate sacrifice too. So we have got, especially World War II, the situation of the war nurses, for example, Vivian Bullwinkle's one of the most famous, is something that we need to also acknowledge, I think.
Totally. Sorry, I am very much listening, and I'm trying to get our video up because I had done a video of all the beautiful photos of the nurses, because I'm guessing that the kids also got to make the costumes. They got to learn about them. I saw that you had a display, some display windows with information on the individual nurses. So where was that display put?
Yes, we have a display case at school, which is in the main thoroughfare of where most of the girls go. It's not far from our office, so it's something that girls walk past every single day. Each little section of the display was devoted to one of the 6 ANZAC nurses that were related to Campbelltown in some way in World War One. There was also another nurse who was a Red Cross nurse that worked in Italy and in other countries in Europe. We also researched her, but that display was basically the girls researching those nurses. They accessed the primary material, so they went to the Discovering Anzacs website where you can get all your World War One service records, and they went through them. They took out bits that they wanted to put on display. We had a launch. We invited our local members of parliament. That is a picture from our launch of the display. I'd like to talk a little bit about that chap there, if I could, for a minute. His name is Bert Collins, and he's 104 years old. He only just turned 104 in March. He's a World War II veteran. He served in what is now West Papua, the Dutch New Guinea in those days, as a searchlight operator. He has been such a good mentor to the girls. He's come out a couple of times. He actually even came in the Fisher's Ghost Parade with us. He just is sharp as a tack. He comes with his carer, which is a man called Jim Wrigley, who's a Vietnam vet. So he has engaged so well with the girls, and he has lots of stories, and he's a bit cheeky too.
Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, let's see if we can get the rest of those photos up, because I like in the displays there's dolls and there's information, and then there's some further photos of the students actually dressed the same as the dolls and holding placards with names and suburbs on them.
Yeah, that's right. So the outfits that were made originally for Anzac Day March in Campbelltown. So it's one of our mums, a lady called Lisette Zapparin. She's very clever with historical costumes. She just said, how would you like me to make a couple of outfits for my twin girls for Anzac Day? And I said, well, if you've got the time, otherwise I'll just ring up the RSL and find out if that's okay. And so I rang up Campbelltown RSL. We made contact with a good friend of ours, Elwyn Spencer, who's one of the veterans there. And he said, well, I've got a few historical costumes in the RSL, so how about, we'll get them out and dress a few more kids up. And then Lisette said, well, we might dress a few extra nurses up. And it got to be bit bigger than that. But each one of the nurses in the traditional, red tippet nurse, traditional World War One outfit represents one of the nurses from Campbelltown. So that's why that they were holding up the picture of that nurse, so representing them. We also had another nurse that we also want to represent. She was from Ingleburn, which is sort of like a few suburbs away from Campbelltown, but still in our Macarthur area. Her name was Helen or Cynthia Holtain, and she was a World War II nurse. She was killed aboard the Centaur, which was a hospital ship, but it was torpedoed by the Japanese. And because she was a local girl, we also wanted to we also did some research into her, and we were actually involved On Remembrance Day also, they unveiled a special memorial to her over at Ingleburn RSL, their memorial garden. So we also took part in that, and we got to meet her family, her great nieces and all that, and that was very special for us because we haven't had much luck trying to track ancestors down of our nurses. We put things in the local paper, but the main problem being nurses were not allowed to marry, and if you were married, you were actually sent out of the forces. So therefore, many of these nurses, that was their lifelong vocation. They never had children, etc. So therefore, their descendants are harder to trace. So we haven't had a great deal of luck with that.
Well, and two, back then, nurses at local hospitals, for example, actually had to live in at the hospital. Yeah. So there was a fair chance that they actually weren't in the same region as their families. So, and then, if they did leave and get married, change names, whatever, I see that it would be much harder to trace, or not trace them, but to keep track of them, sort of, especially if they, like most veterans, didn't really want to talk about their experience. They just wanted to come back and sort of get on with their life. So, yeah, the fact that you guys found so many that you could honour and pay respects to was amazing. So, I know Bronwyn told me somewhere about an award that you got last year. Was it last year that you got?
Well, for the work of the nurses, the college, the History Club girls received what we call an ANZAC Day School Award, and that was for Best Local History Project. And they also became runners-up in the overall Best Secondary School in New South Wales. So that's the award that they got for that work.
Wow, that's impressive. I hope that's up in the cabinet with the display, if the display is still there.
So the display is down because our college turns 180 this year. So we've turned the display in the history of St. Patrick's. So it's in the cabinet, but not that one.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I'm sorry, the photos stuffed up. They're not coming up for me today, but that's okay because I have done the little video thing. So I will put the photos underneath our interview so that people can still see them and know what it was that you were talking about. The other thing is because now ANZAC is such a big thing with your school, is it now something that every year the school plans to march in the local marches? I know Mackenzie was supposed to be speaking at this year's event. So, in another time and place, the school would have put in a big front at the local service as well.
Yeah, well, last year we led the march with the nurses. We've always taken part in the Campbelltown ANZAC Day March, but the nurses was a special event last year. The Campbelltown service is now going ahead via live stream. So Mackenzie is going to give her address now. So she's going to do it. Yeah, so that will be still happening. She'll be delivering that. I think it'll come through at 6 o'clock on Saturday, but you can go back and watch it at any time. But so she's going to give an address, the same one that she would have given had she been able to do it as per normal. And it's very heartfelt. She talks about her family connections, and it's a local story. So it's very cool, actually.
She told us quite a bit about it. Oh, that's good. I'm glad that not only are we doing sort of the driveway at dawn, but that everybody is starting to think of ways that they can, make this ANZAC Day special. So I'm glad she still gets to do her talk. That's amazing, when the rest of us will be standing in our driveway nice and tall behind her. The video's gone. I've tried it again. It's not going to happen, but it's all good. Does anybody, do we have any questions there? We've got lots of thanks. We've got people that are saying hello. Somebody's Naree Skinner's great uncle was on the Centaur. So the connection there with Minto, with Ingleburn, and that nurse is there. So that's great. I don't know who this one is, but this one says, congratulations to the History Club. Once again, like I said, anything that actually engages the kids and gets them not only questioning the history, but sort of wanting to really research it and find out about it.
Mm.
The nurses must have sort of been a really big thing, because I remember Southern Stars down in Wollongong, one of the that all the public schools get involved with. They did a big thing about Anzacs, and had the nurses were their major focus as well that day. So I think that was about 3 years ago they did that one. So it's
the community
obviously a topical thing.
Well, we started this project as our normal assembly at school on the nurses, and then it's just grown because we had a lot of veteran involvement, and then there'd be another event we get invited to, like we did Victory in the Pacific Day over at Capra Vale Diggers. We've done Remembrance Day. And so we found the community embraced it more than I could have ever imagined. Like, they really felt a connection to this. And like our local members of parliament, like, say, Greg Warren mentioned the girls in parliament for their work. He's been very supportive, so has Dr. Freelander, because of that local connection. It's in the pictures you sent me,
what was the plaque that Dr. Freelander, what was that?
That was Greg Warren gave us because he mentioned the girls in parliament, he invited us to Parliament House, and we were presented with this beautiful painting of poppies it's engraved to commemorate the occasion, and that's up at school, so the kids can always think about that. But that was really a lovely outing that day.
Yeah, I've seen the photos and saw the photo with all the girls in their nurse uniforms with Greg Warren and Michael Freelander. So yeah, I saw the photos, and I'm really sorry again that I haven't been able to share them as planned. But I will pop them in the comments so that people get to have a look at them. And I'm quite sure that you will jump on at some stage, and if there are any questions regarding the photographs and whatever, that you will answer as best you can. So thank you for coming on, and just now the other connection that back to Mackenzie, she said that she found out about the history thing from you.
Okay. We get information, and and a friend of mine from work had passed it on to me. So yeah, we got that. We get information from, from DVA or that was Clubs New South Wales. So pass on to the kids and give them the help preparing for whatever it is. Yeah, try. We've had a 3 or 4 kids now go on trips overseas to see the Anzac battlefields and things. They have to go through a rigorous process to get there, but try and encourage them, especially if they've got their own ancestral connection. It's important.
Yeah, definitely. Karen wants to know, have you thought about publishing the student research?
Well, we made up a little booklet at school. We haven't actually officially published it at all, but if she wants a copy of it, I'm happy to pass it.
Does that have like all the local nurses and all those things in it?
Yeah, it's got some little biographies of each of the nurses about which, in terms of that display, each segment of the display. Yeah, we've got something on each of them.
Ah, very good.
I mean, over the years, we've also, the girls have, those who have a connection, it's been great to help them try and find more information about their ancestors. And, now with everything digitised, it's so much easier. And yeah, it's about that skill of research. It's a fine art. So we try and encourage that, because it's so rewarding to help them on that journey, and the families are just so appreciative that you always hold a special place with them, because they've found out something that they might have not known, or being the age they are, they're old enough to still talk to maybe their grandparents or great-grandparents still alive in some instances.
Yeah.
You don't plant that seed now. If they wait till they're 40, 50, too late to get some of that information.
That's right.
Recorded.
My granddad was at Gallipoli, and but I was 7 when he died. So no conscious thought at 7. Wow, he was in the war. I should ask him some stories. And by the time I was old enough to sort of have those thoughts and be guided and whatever, it was too late. So spot on. Find it, like, that's one of the things we've been encouraging on our page on the Aussies and Kiwis for Anzacs is get the stories. Go and talk to them via Zoom or Skype or whatever, but get the stories out there, because there's so many that, are starting to disappear. So we need to document them in some shape or form. So history teachers like you are doing a world of good and doing some amazing things in inspiring the younger generation to think and ask and look and research. So thank you very much.
Well, we've got a little old cemetery next to the school. It's a little disused cemetery, a congregational one, and we've been working there because there's 3 memorial stones and 1 actual grave of World War One soldiers in there. And we've only got 1 person who's got a family connection we've ever been able to find. Again, because it hasn't been used since the 50s, this cemetery, like, very hard to find anyone around, and they're just pitifully there. And we try to put a wreath on them, each year to make sure they're not forgotten. But they're interesting stories too about the fall.
Well, my sister went to St. Pat's for like 5 years, and that's the first I've heard of a cemetery next door. So
it's very small, and it's in the condition. It's extremely old and it's very fragile, but you can still make out on the memorial stones, because the two of them, for example, they have no known graves like so many of World War One soldiers. So these 2 little memorial stones, were somewhere placed for those families to have some remnant of them. So that's the other part of war that doesn't get talked about, which is important.
That's right.
Yeah. Again, it's that connection. It's connecting them, that there is a artifact of World War One right next door to you, and you walk past it every day.
Like I said, well, I've lived in Campbelltown in Campbelltown and surrounds since about 1983, and I've heard that there is a cemetery there, and I know I've been past that particular street crossroad plenty of times. So it's amazing that these things are now, that we are getting the history up there, and that people are finding them. And not just that, I'm quite sure that in the near future, it won't just be a couple of memorials next door. There will actually be some more history on it, and the connections will get made, and people will find out, because it sounds like you've inspired quite a few kids to actually start digging for information. So I wouldn't be surprised if sometime in the near future we know a lot more about those stones next door.
I hope so.
Yeah, definitely. Now, I think that's we don't have many other comments here. Just a couple of thanks for sharing ones, which is great. And Mackenzie has jumped in on your interview today and said, congratulations, we are proud of you. So the fact that your students love you as well is amazing. And like I said, we can't thank you enough for inspiring and encouraging the next generation. So thank you for joining us on the Aussies and Kiwis for Anzac live feed tonight. And I'll let you get back to your family, seeing as it is school holidays and you're not required to be at school tomorrow. At this stage, we will let you go. But thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for all that you are doing for Anzac Day too.
We do what we can where we can. That's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah,
there you go. Another one said, thank you for all that information. Do you know what? it's almost like a challenge, isn't it? If wherever anyone across Australia and New Zealand live, if there is sort of some random spot that you've never looked at before, that you've passed all the time and gone, I wonder what that is, maybe now's the time to start researching and finding out what it is and where the origins of it came from, because that's it. Who would have thought that we would have a little memorial like that in the hills in Campbelltown? It's not where anyone would actually expect to find it. So I wonder how many other little family memorials or little plots or little things are around. So there you go. That is my challenge via Fran, who had the idea to come up, let us know what's in your area, and quite happily we would be quite happy for you to photograph it, or if you have photographs of it, seeing as we're not really allowed to go too far from home at the moment. But if you do have photographs of things like that, please put the stories up and share them. Fran, do you have photographs of the memorial next to the school?
Yes, I do. There was a couple of photos in the presentation that you were going to do as well. No, I've got them. I've got them for you. Yeah.
Excellent. Do you want to put them up on the page as well? And, just with a little bit of a story. And my challenge, like I said to everyone, is let's see those stories. Let's see those memorials that otherwise may be forgotten. So pop them up onto the Aussies and Kiwis for ANZAC group, and I look forward to seeing them there. Righto, Fran. Tomorrow I've got some very different interviews happening tomorrow, so I'm just going to let people know. I'm going to say goodbye to you. Thank you for joining me. Hang around for a minute, but thanks for joining me. Okay, so tomorrow we've actually got a couple of interviews. The one in the afternoon, we're going to talk to just a few different people from my greater community that all have interest in Anzac Day and attend the services. One of the guys organises a service, another one organises some stuff with the local war memorial. So we're going to just have a bit of a chat to the panel about the traditional way of commemorating Anzac Day, as well as, the difference between what normally happens and what's going to happen this year. So we've got that. And tomorrow night I've got Bill Sowery, Terry James, and Justin Wilbur will be joining us for just a general chat about Anzacs and the Driveways at Dawn movement. So join us tomorrow for that one. But we're going to finish off once again with our latest little video courtesy of Anita. So thank you.